The whole situation is rather unusual.
Yeah, understatement of the decade.
Sticks and stones may break our bones, but nothing will ever destroy this laboratory, I'm afraid.
Oh, unfortunately not, as it's started to become painfully obvious.
I might as well disclose to our listeners where I'm located. Well, I'm in the middle of a lake right now, so you can't blame me for not coming up with creative ways to make this podcast interesting in some ways.
No. I can always blame you for everything, as can our listeners, and they should. Like, if there's anything you want to take home from this product, it's blame Karri for everything that is wrong.
Yeah, and if you think something is wrong, I will just
Completely ignore it and follow your own headstrong path.
yeah. So if you have any creative differences against the direction that I'm taking, I'm going to be very democratic and hit you with a paddle. Welcome to the flip.
That's is actually very much keeping in tone with our now starting lineup of films, which is once again Asian movies.
Yeah, how did this happen, Henrik? We are here once again in South Korea. Well, anyway, this is some kind of a topical event, as the Peninsula from 2020 has just appeared in theaters, as the year happens to be 2020, and we're going to be going through this whole 3-movie trilogy-ish saga from Yeon Sang-ho, the director who created Train to Busan, Peninsula being its kind of sequel, yes, but it's not like directly connected to Train to Busan apart from the zombie outbreak. It might be just that, dear listeners, you're going to get a dose of new cinema every once in a while now in this podcast, since we have actually started this little new cinema lineup with the 101st episode with the Syksyn jälkeen saapuu kevät episode.
And yeah, there will be spring, as the English title went. And this is how Karri very smoothly ignores and forgets the fact that we did also cover the 2018 Halloween film when it came out, which is something that Karri still tries to hide in his basement of shame and never bring up.
Yeah, that happened. Now though, we are catching up with our zombie flicks. I'm not a zombie flick fan, as Henrik very well knows, but now we are touching it with actually 3 movies. It's going to be a little bit different from the George A. Romero direction, where we have very slow walking zombies, as the Yeon Sang-ho version is slightly sped up of that.
At times, at times, I because one of the main things I noticed when watching today's flick, Seoul Station, is that the goddamn brain dead jackasses can't quite decide, are they gonna walk or are they gonna run.
And they can't decide if they're going to close any doors or not. Mostly not.
Yeah, and they can't quite decide, are they going to make that zombie flesh wall thing and break through the windows and some such, or are they not gonna do that?
Right.
And if any of our listeners are currently wondering what is all that background noise that you are hearing, that's Karri, who is paddling his small ringy-dingy rowboat. Because being a film podcaster, it's come to pass that Karri no longer has the right to set a foot on the Finnish soil. So the dude has to record his end from the actual sea.
God damn it, this was supposed to be a simulated zombie outbreak. Can I not play any role-playing games here every once in a while? You forest role-playing hippie boy.
Well, you know, to think about the positives here in your situation, if the polar ice caps ever truly like melt 100% and our life all of a sudden starts to resemble Kevin Costner's sci-fi flick, you kind of you have one up on me in that case. As long as that doesn't happen, I'm the one who actually manages still to live in a house, and you are living in I don't know, some kind of a boat tent that you set up.
Well, I guess this is one episode too early because in Train to Busan we get a glimpse at this claustrophobic snowpiercer setup where you're stuck in some kind of a structure or vehicle from something that is threatening you from the outside.
Yeah, that we are missing. But then again, we are talking about Seoul Station, which is a film that deals with homelessness, and that's a situation that Kari can relate.
Well, touche. Henrik has been taking some ammunition here as well, so it's totally valid. Okay. It's not really a direct prequel, but you can see it as that if you use a lot of imagination, of course.
You can see it partly. I don't feel that the film kind of directly links up with Train to Busan. The point where Seoul Station is going for and where it ends, I would almost make the case that that's a kind of a different point in the zombie epidemic than what is the moment where Train to Busan starts.
Yeah, so this is a first South Korean zombie franchise, first shown on the 2016 Edinburgh International Film Festival, this entry. This is more of a prologue, I guess the word would go.
This is something. I give it that much. I don't really know what this is.
Yeon Sang-ho is no stranger to animated film, of course. In fact, he started his career with those. He directed The King of Pigs in 2011, his first feature length, which was a kind of a social commentary about bullying, to which he contributed some of his own experiences with that subject matter. So once again, it's some kind of outside force, some bullying coming from a certain direction. And in The Fake from 2013, it was a critique of organized religion. Here the bullying coming from the religion. And tonight it's pretty much the state itself.
It's it gets messy. Soul Station gets extremely messy when it comes to its subject matter, which is homelessness. I guess if you would have to find kind of a quote unquote the bully in Soul Station, it would be like you mentioned the state or society. But like I said, it gets messy.
These three animated films, certainly the first two here, The King of Pigs and The Fake, these are what brought this director to prominence. And The King of Pigs was the first Korean animated film which was invited to Cannes Film Festival. There's a lot of film themes that we could talk about. We have Yoo Sung-young playing Seo-kyu, or the so-called father of the film, one of the most famous character actors in Korea. And we have Shim Gyang playing Hae-sun, this girl, a highly successful child actress previously, and has starred in a woman-centered comedy film Sunny, which helped to break some stereotypes regarding woman-centered films that apparently couldn't break box office, but this proved people wrong. It did pretty well, yeah, 7 million admissions in Korea. She also acted in Masquerade from 2012. It's kind of a comedic depiction of a king who has a doppelganger who takes over the kinging duties. Yeon's latest movie is Psychokinesis from 2018, in which she also starred, and she has some musical abilities, plays drums in her band Chicken Candy, and does taekwondo. Then we have Lee Son playing the bespectacled Gyung, the boy. And in real life, he's an actor, singer, and a DJ, and a former boy band member from the MBLAQ, or Music Boys Live, or Live in Absolute Quality. Sorry. That's so tacky. Apparently, he has also played in Iris 2, the TV series which follows in the footsteps of the movie Shiri, but I have no recollection of the actor in it. We start with the homeless man being bitten. Kind of getting straight to the point, people stare, no one cares. The one who decides to help the man turns away when he realizes that he's a homeless person with a stench. And people walk by, nobody's really helping around the Seoul station, known in real life for being kind of the end station, if you will, of people less fortunate in life.
Yeah, so when it comes to the South Korean homelessness, which is pretty drastic, there is over 13,000 homeless in South Korea. That makes something like 2.73 homeless per citizen in South Korea, and Seoul has the majority of these people. Approximate 66% of all homeless people of South Korea are living in Seoul. And these people, the Seoul station is one of those is the go-to place to get nightly shelter and stay over the night. Perhaps the second largest concentration of homeless, most likely being Busan, which houses something like 20% of South Korea's homeless population. So with that, yeah, it's quite topical to locate your film in Seoul and Seoul Station. Eh, and this is one of the main instances, I would say. The first half an hour, 20 minutes of the film is the moment that best ties in with that film's main theme, that being the homeless people of Seoul.
Yeah, there is this juxtapose of affluence and poverty, and inciting cruelty and pain for those less fortunate. And well, as we see though, the zombie outbreak kind of acting as an equalizer to an extent.
It is, and with the zombie outbreak in this movie, since it starts amidst the homeless population, and from there it kind of grows and starts to more and more engulf rest of South Korea, and in process of doing so, it also becomes a threat to those who are economically and financially more well off. So there is kind of this eat the rich message that the film carries over with its zombie outbreak.
There is an it's surprising level of disregard for the homeless, and apparently it is a real issue in South Korea, which is the intention of the director to really raise on pedestal as the subject matter of the film.
Yeah, the homeless situation in South Korea is something that currently is being predicted to rise, especially in the form of elderly poverty and through poverty, homelessness. So most likely something that might happen in the near future of South Korea is that there might be a spike of new elderly homeless, as basically the South Korean economy is leaving its elderly behind. At the moment, the economy has been somewhat slowing. I'm not entirely sure if now 2020 it's once again momentarily picking up speed, but South Korean economy isn't hasn't exactly been, the onwards moving steam engine of capitalism that it somehow has been perceived as. There's also the second factor that feeds into this possible problem of elderly poverty is something that is felt as a social change, where the younger generation will no longer carry and takes care of their elders once they become old enough that they can no longer work and otherwise make money and sustain themselves, but they now would be more and more tied to their homes.
There's also the class division that we slightly covered on. The kind of trivial societal issues will also become meaningless because the survival fight or flight mode kicks in. The kind of you have the societal abundance and flourishing, or what's the correct word for it. We allow for non-essential products and services to exist, and it's always kind of rewarding to see when we see the onset of an outbreak of zombie kind, for example, and it shuts down non-essential entertainment ventures such as strip clubs or dogs beauty competitions or what have you.
Or like you've seen in real life with COVID-19, it actually just makes those useless and oftentimes senseless time killers that much more important and meaningful to people.
Yeah, the zombie trope. There's a quote about the zombie trope from Cinema Axis, who said, "The zombie trope is used to show the discrimination within society and also serves as an effective metaphor for the class division in South Korea." Yeon is well known for his observations on class and society from his previous animated films, and a group of working and middle class survivors learn just how much they weigh against the maintaining order, which is not at all. There's also the police state argument, police brutality, government militarization, and the incompetence or apathy of authority. And we see this as when the police force takes over as kind of I believe what is taking place is now some kind of a martial law that is authorized, and they all of the people, regardless of their social classes, are in between the zombies and the police.
Yeah, well, to be more specific, they are that in one alley.
Yeah, well, it's the beginning of the outbreak.
It is something. I don't know what exactly, and I'm not entirely sure that the film knows either.
You're right. You're right. It's not clear exactly what this film wants to say. This is bothering me throughout the film. It has this seemingly disconnected ideas that George A. Romero and the like have already portrayed with more success. Here it's like we have, for example, the reddish glowing church cross that we see in several establishing or big city level cityscape shots, and it's not really there to do anything in my opinion except to say, well, yeah, well, religion is something that was not able to stop this terrible force from ravaging the city. Or you can see it as a connection to the director's previous movies, which is probably more the case.
Yeah, I was wrestling with the movie quite a lot when I saw it for the first time. This being the first instance that I've even come acquainted with the film. I didn't even know that Seoul Station existed before we started to do the episode, and it became part of the background work. But after my first viewing, I spent quite a lot of time trying to wrap my head around the question, why did this not really work for me? Because I saw here, uh, a lot of things that should immediately make this a movie for me. There was the homelessness, and there was the societal critique, and all such. But for some reason, the film just didn't click. And the realization I came to was that in the end, the film kind of doesn't say anything,
Yeah, yeah,
and I'm even uncertain that does the film even know what it wants to say?
yeah.
Because when it comes to the societal critique, when it comes to the homelessness and all other aspects that the film is supposed to touch upon, I kind of saw it that the film only it takes the images. It shows you a homeless person, and then it doesn't do anything with it. It shows you the military sized police and the army getting involved in with catastrophic results. Doesn't do anything with that. It shows you the working class people alongside with the homeless characters.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't do anything with that. It gives you the images, it gives you the situations, but nothing ever leads into anything. It's just like, here's a homeless person and here's a working class person and they share a space.
Right.
You're kind of asking, yeah, and then what? What happens? Where does this lead into? And the only answer that the film has to give to you is, well, zombie horde appears.
Yeah, exactly. It has themes of religion, at least in the sense of the cross and the poverty and the military and societal struggles. And I don't really see anything happening to these elements either, except we see the zombies as some kind of a, as said, equalizing force. And well, then what? So what?
Yeah, and equalizing force in what regard?
Yeah.
Like what do the zombies actually do in the film in the end, outside of the possible eat the rich metaphor? Like, do the two classes now come together? Does the middle class and the poor start to work together? Is there some kind of a empathy that grows amidst the middle class towards the poor? Does that happen? Does the poor and middle class together start to hate the super rich of South Korea? Kind of nothing fucking happens.
Yeah, it does seem like many reviewers have stated that it kind of seems like it's some kind of a testing ground before the real thing that is Train to Busan. But even if you juxtapose this with the director's previous animes, like plot-wise, what it wants to say, we have well institutionalized oppression into forms of schools or churches. Here, I don't know what we have. Like, what are we supposed to reflect the zombies onto? Like, it's a collection of random events with nothing in particular connecting them except the hunt for the girl.
Yeah, I mean, you say that there's nothing connecting them, and I would go as far as say that there really is not even that much of a plot to connect them.
No, and I think it's okay that there's like not a big revelatory plot. At the end, it still kind of comes together, not exactly with the underlying themes, if there are really any, but the characters come to an end, literally.
Well, the characters kind of quotation marks, because I didn't see much of a characters here either. They are one dimensional to be polite. Someone could say that cut out of cardboard. There, you have a girl who can't use a phone and cries constantly.
Mm.
You have the elderly guy who is homeless and gets a bullet to the head. You have the boyfriend character who is a complete piece of shit and spends the rest of the movie in some asshole's car trying to phone the girl, and then you have the dad character of the film who is the one driving the car.
And
You don't really. I would say you don't really have much of a character with these, in lack of a better word, characters.
yeah, the so-called father figure, the pimp, is the driving force of the plot, and at the same time, his actions don't really make any sense to me. Like, why are you trying to collect the pay or the debt from the girl during a goddamn zombie outbreak?
Yeah, yeah. Like to spoil the mega twist of the film right off the gate. This is the main twist of the movie, and where the entire film is kind of building up towards two. In the final minutes, it turns out that the dad who has claimed to be looking for his daughter for the runtime of the film is actually the girl's pimp.
Yeah,
That's the major twist of the movie. And why the pimp is so concerned about the one girl, it's like you said, it doesn't quite make the sense. There is the notion being raised that the girl has stolen an X amount of money from the pimp, or borrowed, or done something. There is supposed to be some money somewhere. How much and where is never made clear. But that's what the pimp is supposed to be all about. He wants to find a girl to get the money back. But
possibly such a huge amount of money that apparently you could buy some fancy housing with that, as he states at the end. Or if every girl of his would behave the same way.
yeah, yeah, or something. It's enough money that the dude is willing to risk a zombie outbreak just to get the money back, and risk his
And
life constantly to get the money back. And you didn't, like, I don't even know where the money went, because when the film starts, the girl and her boyfriend are supposed to be flat ass broke to a point where they can't pay a rent, and the asshole boyfriend is already considering pimping his girlfriend out to make at least some money. So I guess nobody has money. So how much money was stolen?
there's been a couple of reviewers who have stated that this is a kind of a return to the centralization or centering on the actual outbreak, not so much centering on the bold and the beautiful aspect, like for example The Walking Dead seems to do. It's just using the zombies as some kind of a background prop, a motivation to move on to the next setup, something, or how to describe it in a proper way. But here also the main focus, as well, it's the zombies, but also the driving force of the story is getting the money back, or so-called father meeting this daughter of his.
Yeah, and it doesn't really even work as a strong outbreak movie, in my opinion, because you don't actually learn anything about the outbreak. This film, the film starts with the old homeless guy already being beaten. Like the dude is bleeding and near death when the movie starts. That's the very first image of the movie, is the old homeless guy bleeding from his neck, and he has the bite wound. So where did that come from? How did the outbreak start? Nobody knows. How did the outbreak proceed? Well, you don't actually see that either, because you are stuck with with the girl and the pimp daddy, and they just go to places where zombies already are. So you don't see once the film leaves the Seoul station, you don't actually see how the outbreak spreads and starts to engulf Seoul. And you don't also see where the outbreak is supposed to end, because, well, once again, spoilers. Before anybody can actually do anything that drastic concerning the outbreak, all the characters die and the film ends.
Yeah, so in that sense, it's kind of a unfinished story unless you jump to Train to Busan and kind of get your sort of continuation kicks out from there.
Yeah, and Train to Busan doesn't work as a direct sequel to Seoul Station, so you are kind of left dangling in the wind
Well,
when it comes to Seoul Station.
well, like I said, it can serve as a continuation, but you have to be pretty creative with that, in the sense that they have already had a huge outbreak in Seoul for the last, I don't know, 12 hours, the entire night. And then the
Yep,
people leaving the Seoul
and
station in the beginning of Train to Busan are completely oblivious of this.
yeah, yeah. Like there's supposed to be a military barricade just a few blocks away from Seoul Station. But you can go to in Train to Busan. You can actually walk all the way to Seoul Station and not notice the military blockade.
Right?
I guess the military just decided that this does not merit our time, and they just packed their gear and went back home.
I would like to talk about the way that the zombies work in this film. For one thing, of course, they are quite fast moving here, but it's something that I want to come back to. But the biting and how they affect the characters. I guess you noticed this, that somebody gets a scratch, turns into a zombie immediately, and
Yeah, yep.
and
It's
then
it's
yeah,
almost like somebody sees a zombie and the outbreak spreads.
right. And then there is one homeless guy who gets bitten in the neck and is able to manage with it for at least, I don't know, 45 minutes.
Yeah, and then there's that one cop who gets some kind of a injury in his arm when he and the three homeless persons lock themselves in the jail cell, and he can fight off the infection for something like solid 5 minutes.
And which is a very interesting setup once again, in a way that apparently the homeless people, as the movie wants to say, are even worse to the society than the zombies, as we see the guard or the policeman guarding himself against the horrible homeless people instead of the zombies.
Yeah, and when it comes to when it comes to the film drawing a societal message or making some kind of a statement, societal statement, I did feel that the two instances where it worked the best was a in the immediate beginning of the movie when the I maybe well these films patient zero is walking towards the station and the two youngsters are showing disregard towards him. The first one goes to him and first offers help, but once he notices that the person that he is a homeless man, immediately turns away and walks back to his friend and says something like, "Well, I would have helped him had he been in." And the dude is bleeding from his goddamn neck. That is the first instance where I did think that the societal message did work, at least partly. And the second moment for me was the jail cell scene that you mentioned, where the cop is treating the homeless people who he is locked with in the jail cell as an extreme suspicion and almost to a point where he regards the homeless as a larger threat than the zombie horde outside of jail cell.
Okay, because when it comes to your first point, I felt that it was a little bit too much in your face and not anymore anywhere under the surface. It was just clearly insinuated that yeah, okay, we get it. Societal messaging. These guys don't want to help a homeless person in any situation whatsoever because they are the stinking hobos.
It is. You are absolutely right with that sentiment. It is painfully in your face. It's not subtle at all, not the slightest. But that's the moment where the film actually makes at least some kind of a message. It takes the message and rubs it in your face. Certainly, yes, but at least now we have a message.
And it The film also touches on family dynamics to an extent. You can see this more clearly when we get to Train to Busan, where we once again have not, well, well, this is of course not father and daughter situation. But then we move on to Train to Busan, where we have the daughter and father dynamic. Something like this, and you will see that it's something that will also repeat in Peninsula once we get there. A dysfunctional family, perhaps, is what he also wants to show here in Train to Busan for sure. And maybe it's something that he wants to trace to the map and kind of try to fix it on his part via films.
I do get the feeling that that's something that Sang Ho wants to do is he wants to criticize the pre-given notion that South Korean people and with that out of the way, Asian people in general are extremely polite all the time, polite and kind. And watching Seoul Station and later on watching Train to Busan, I haven't yet seen Peninsula, but coming from these two films, I do get the feeling that this is something that Sang Ho wants to kind of showcase to the world that the Asian people and more specifically South Korean people, they ain't as kind and polite as we in the West want to.
There was a website, Miss on Scene, very smart, Miss in Scene, haha, which stated that, quote, these responses by authorities and ordinary people, violence and denial, are based on the 2014 Seoul ferry disaster where 300 passengers died on a sinking ferry as the captain and crew rowed away to safety, and the 2015 MERS outbreak, where schools shut down and people panicked because of government and public health officials' secretive handling of the situation. Message control was a priority in both crises, with the government even disseminating misinformation. End quote. And now, kind of fitting to watch this during the COVID time. You can see some parallels.
You kind of can. There is an outside force that the institution is kind of a powerless against. Then there are the not yet diseased population who makes a complete ass of themselves and well, pretty much is dead set on making certain that we don't get rid of the epidemic. And then you have the situation where basically the situation turns everybody into a horrible asshole.
It really looked like that when the outbreak started, for sure. When people were panicking and panic buying, all the shelves almost empty. And you started to feel like this is some kind of a zombie situation. Maybe I should get some food before, it's like a chain reaction, dominoes.
It is. The first jackass starts to hoard toilet paper and tuna fish, which means that of course the quantities in store for a moment starts to drop, which means that the next person also starts to hoard the exact same shit, and all of a sudden you have this vicious circle going on. And then 2 weeks go by, and the store gets new set of toilet paper and tuna fish.
Yeah, I like that one guy on, was it Finnish TV, on Finnish TV news, who said that, yeah, we're in Finland, we're prepared, we have, our supplies are not running out as fast as people might think. So, I don't know, the message that I got is that the Finnish food supplies are zombie proof.
They are actually they are pretty damn proof. I don't know if we would have even more drastic situation that would drag on for months where that would lead us. But we do have pretty good backup plans when it comes to epidemics. Global pandemic.
What do you think about the zombie genre? How this sits up next to the other competitors? Of course, zombie films have been done to death, but there's always some films that make some new, innovative ideas. Well, we have seen the slouching zombies George A. Romero style. We have seen the running zombies, for example, here, super intelligent zombies. What do you feel is the most effective type of zombie? I think at the end of the day, it's all about the execution, right?
To me, it doesn't really matter because to let you in on a little industry genre secret, the fact is zombies are fucking terrible horror movie villains. Like absolutely the worst. And I would say any good zombie film has the brains to be not about the zombies themselves. The main kind of a force that or the main purpose that you can get out of the zombie is precisely the human drama and what it means, human characters of your story. Zombies work as a kind of a Deus ex machina or some kind of a tour de force outsider influence, which has two main purposes in your story. That the first one is to collapse the civilized society and make certain that your traditional safety nets ceases to work. And the second one is to create a threat that will uh, that is able to follow your survivors, that is able to every now and then, hide in close vicinity, so that the random character X wanders into a room and starts checking the corners and misses the one zombie in the room, which once again, means that in that close unit that your survivors form, all of a sudden the outbreak situation, starts over because now that character X has been beat and the rest of the group has to somehow deal with the situation. But when it comes to working as a standalone entity or a force, zombies do not really work. They quite often they are stupid as pack of hammers, and they don't move that quickly, and they are pretty much they are dangerous in masses, and that's about it. So because of that, I myself, I strongly believe that it's a good zombie fiction is not about how the zombies work and what the zombies do. It's what the zombies causes for the survivors, and about the different dynamics and different personalities within the survivor group clashing against each other, and the more hideous aspects of those characters starting to surface as they now are
Yeah.
struggling for resources and safe place.
So you're kind of going actually kind of against of what, well, I didn't state that I would prefer it the other way, but the issue that I feel is with this kind of zombie dramas, let's say, as dramas, if you will, is that they might just cheapen your baddie to a level of that it's you can't really tell what it is, if it's a zombie flick or if it's Bold and the Beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. I am more driven to the drama between the characters. I'm most definitely in the drama camp. The problem with the drama, like you stated, is that you can overdo the drama to a point where it becomes, like you said, an episode of Bold and the Beautiful, and that's kind of going too far. I would say that zombies work really well in a standalone film or the confines of a movie. You can take hour and a half to 2 hours of a story and tie it with your zombies. Maybe even be able to do sequels if you are willing, for example, follow different set of survivors in a different environment. This is kind of the George R. Romero route where every film is set in different locations and different times of the epidemic. But where Walking Dead, I would say, fails the most is that, and in here I have to point out I haven't really watched the series much, so I don't know what happens in the later seasons. But something that I did notice with the series is that from season 2 onwards, they at least in my opinion, they start AMC, the production house of the series, it started to cut down on the budget, which meant less creepy zombies because they were more and more just an extra who has spray paint in his face. And in fact, even less zombies appeared in the individual episode, which meant that they started to pan out the episode length and the season with the human drama. And because they were typically in season, they were locked down into one place, a farm, the prison, you name it. They didn't really move from place A to place B within that season. They just were constant in place X. It also meant that the drama really couldn't get new material and new food into it to kind of keep it interesting, and instead the characters were just making the same goddamn points when it came to the drama between them constantly 2 or 3 times in the course of the season. You had a lot of these "do you like me, I like you, do you like me, I like you" type of situation, or situations where some character is hella certain that another character is hiding some kind of a deep dark secret,
Mm.
and this point just gets brought up again and again.
Yeah, also in Train to Busan and well, the entire trilogy, if you will, we have the same thing that the people are the carrying force of the story. Thankfully, that makes any movie actually work. But you could say that the antagonists are much more entertaining than in your average zombie flick. At least Train to Busan. That's probably that most people can agree with.
You can have good zombies, and you can have horrific and scary moments with your zombies. I'm not completely casting the zombies out when it comes to horror movies and say that they absolutely do not work as a horror film villain. But I would almost say that the zombies work, as case by case antagonists. If you have really good build up and good camera work, a good sense of audio, stuff like that, in that case, you can have films that have really scary and strong zombie scenes and moments.
Mm,
Still wouldn't watch those films for the zombies themselves.
yeah. Technically speaking, Soul Station is quite of a winner. I understand that the budget was really low, but they were able to make it look very good and comparable to, I would say, even some Japanese top animes. And I did like, for example, these moving shots in the corridors with this 3D effects. They looked pretty cool.
Okay, because I hated them.
What happened with that you hated?
When you watch enough anime, you start to notice that there are things that especially anime TV series do when they are on a tight budget, perhaps also on a tight schedule, and you start to see these small kind of cheats that the anime pull off, and I saw a hell of a lot of those in Soul Station. The characters that you get, they are not really that detailed to start with. The environments are not really that detailed. They are pretty bland and pretty damn basic. There's a lot of movement from the characters, especially if they are in the background of a shot where it's animated, like their shoulders rise up a bit, just a hint, and they lower, just a hint, just a tiny bit, so that there's some movement happens, and it tells you that the character is breathing. So this animated scene has movement, but that movement, nothing like it's very easy and extremely cheap and extremely quick to animate. It doesn't really take anything from you to pull it off. Even I can fucking do that, and I am a layman's animator at best. There's also a lot of scenes where the camera pans in a way that it's easy to notice that that's simply done by having the computer program that you are using to animate the film, just pan out or in. And well, the movement, in my opinion, when it comes to the animation, how the characters move, pretty bad. At times, it's almost like they are floating in the goddamn air, and their feet are not touching the ground. And you also notice in larger group moments and shots of the film that you have only like two or three characters who even make any kind of a movement. Even if it's something as simple as just waving your hand. You have a couple of those characters making that, and the rest of the characters just are still moving, not at all. So all of these to me these are telltale signs of a budget stricken animation, cheap animation, quick animation, and lazy animation.
I checked that the budget of the film was most likely 576k in dollars. I didn't find those issues that you saw, although I'm pretty quick to usually note in Japanese anime that there are kind of a lazy shortcuts. But I noticed that the frames are not completely full of action all the time, but that kind of fits the film as the landscapes are a little bit rough and realistic. So yeah, Hilia. Yep, I'm going to push you to the lake.
Go for it. You have my blessing.
Go have a swim. Go have a swim. First of your life. No? Really? Go. One day I'm gonna push you there. What kind of irritated me about the plot, minimalistic amount, is the that how the plot kind of bumbles on with the boyfriend and the girlfriend calling each other every now and then and checking where are you now, where are you now, and for the love of God, there's even this scene where the ambulance is fallen down on its back, and the girlfriend escapes with the homeless guy. And in the ambulance, she had just made the call to the boyfriend that I'm on my way to the ambulance. Once they get out of the ambulance, the phone is still intact, but she doesn't have the slightest thought in her head to try to call her boyfriend to say that maybe you shouldn't go to the hospital. And then they go to the hospital and almost get eaten by the zombies. And a second thing is that they kind of carry on the plot with the cell phone and the guy just taking the boyfriend wherever they go, just trying to follow the girlfriend to random directions. So a bit lazy effort to put the people in locations.
Yeah, I was losing my mind. The goddamn cell phone. Honestly, God, I from halfway onwards with the film, I was actually hoping that someone would just pick up a brick and just gave their girl's head in.
Wow.
I was fed up with the character and the constant the constant incapability of using the goddamn fucking phone.
Yeah. Yeah, right. They spend godless amount of minutes like, where are you now? I'm here. Okay. And then they just keep staying in the location and wondering about the
Yeah,
cell
it's
phone
it,
call. Standing.
yeah, it's a 90-minute film that could have been done in 15 minutes. If the girl just would have had the two goddamn brain cells to call her boyfriend and say, "Hey, I am in place X. Hey, I am in the 2 blocks behind the police station," and just stay put.
But even when she does that and announces where she's located, she's doing that in a fashion that all the zombies in the vicinity will come and follow her.
Yeah, she is. And whenever she is not fumbling it up with the cell phone, well, then she's crying.
Yep.
And these two character traits culminates in her when she's both on her cell phone and crying.
Yeah. And disconnected permanently.
And for the life of me, I was never able to figure out why the boyfriend is so interested on finding her. Like, there's kind of a two realms when it comes to the boyfriend. Well, first of all, something that we have to establish is that the boyfriend is a horrible piece of shit, as is every character in the movie. And before the outbreak starts, the boyfriend breaks up with the girl because the girl is not okay with her boyfriend pimping her out to strangers online. So they have this falling out. Boyfriend making the case that I never wanna see you again, etc. And then the boyfriend runs into the pimp daddy, and from this point onwards, the whole boyfriend girlfriend dynamic starts to get really wonky because on a technical level you kind of can make the argument that the reason why boyfriend is interested in the girl is because he is with the pimp daddy, and the pimp daddy is trying to break the boyfriend's legs or his spine or you know any given body part unless the girl is found. That is pretty sound logic, I must admit. But then on sentimental and emotional level, the film somehow starts to argue that the boyfriend is looking for the girl because he loves and cares for her, and this is some kind of a I'm trying to reconnect with my lover type of situation, which makes no goddamn sense seeing the breakup that just happened.
Well, people change their opinions all the time, and especially during during zombie outbreaks or any kind of emergency situations. So I'm not that surprised at all. I'm though more surprised why the boyfriend is even willing to meet the so-called father so willingly during this crisis. Connects with him, and then you even see kind of some warmth coming from this pimp in the car. They're starting to kind of connect, you feel, and then by the end, the guy is slashing his throat out.
Yeah. And as far as I was able to understand this thematical change that happens with the pimp daddy in course of the film, it once again this is bit vicious of me, but I'm pretty damn certain that that's only so that the film can throw out its epic plot twist at the end of the film.
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
during the car ride scenes, as you noted, that the pimp daddy starts to warm up and or he starts to it looks like he's warming up and softening a bit and forming a bond with the boyfriend.
Definitely not an accident. It's intentional. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and once you get to the plot twist of the film, it no longer serves any purpose, and the only reason I see for that is to drive to the audience as the image that yeah, the dude really is the girl's father for real. See,
There's it also doesn't quite make sense when in the beginning of the film we see the pimp attacking the boyfriend in several ways and telling him how terrible of a care he has taken of the kid. And
oh
then
yeah, those moments, yeah, when they get to the whole motel where the boyfriend and the girl has been staying,
for
and the pimp
example,
daddy starts to make the remarks that this is a rat hole.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah, like what the brothel that he runs is some kind of a luxury apartment.
well, Henrik, what tickled your fancy in this film?
I actually don't know. Outside of those two in your face social commentary mode, I really don't know.
Yeah, those social commentary moments that had some cohesion. But it's kind of a quick, fun watch, nothing earth shattering. I think it's still worth a look for any horror or anime fans out there, although I would still stand my ground that it doesn't have much to say. But it has a setup and kind of a final delivery.
I on my end, I'm kind of completely the opposite. I I want and I do not recommend this film. to well, to anyone really. I was mostly bored with Seoul Station to that point where when I was checking this for the second time, I was already struggling to even to stay awake.
Oh,
Yeah, like didn't work at all for me, and it doesn't work as a horror film. It in my opinion it doesn't work as a prequel to Train to Busan. It doesn't work as a social commentary, and it doesn't work as a zombie movie. So in my opinion, this is most definitely a skippable feature.
well, instead of seemingly unconnected scenes, I would make the locations count more here. Like, why are they precisely in the locations they are in? Of course, this is like uncontrollable plague, and you just have to go somewhere with the characters, but it feels exactly like that. It's like an amusement park ride with nothing further in it, and that's what it is. It's just a fun ride, if you will.
And I wasn't amused.
Oh dear.
Like you know we put our heads when it comes to zombie entertainment on this podcast previously. Things were said, and let me iterate and say it for the record. I do actually think I honest to God, like I'm not trolling you, man. I know where you stand when it comes to zombie strippers. I'm not trying to start a fight. I'm not trolling you. I'm 100% honest and sincere when I state that I felt that zombie strippers had more to say than Soul Station. Take that as you will.
Okay. Well, I can see how you would say that, but it's okay. This is okay. It's okay, but I'm.
No, it's not. This is not. This is zombie strippers is okay. This is not.
But at the
This
same,
doesn't even have tits, and this is supposed to be about prostitution.
there we go again. But I'm sure you have better things to do as well than to watch Soul Station. So take it as you will. If you have nothing better to do, I mean, I think it didn't do anything particularly wrong, but it wasn't incredibly pleasant either. But why not? Give it a try.
Yeah, by all means, go on and check out Soul Station, and then come back to our Facebook page to tell Carly how I was right.
Well, if you want to spend some more time with zombies somewhere else than in a strip club, then this might be your thing.
You talking about the film or the podcast? Because both are pretty brain dead entertainment. I must give you that.
Oh yeah? You really know you're watching Soul Station when there's a mysterious, satanic looking red cross every now and then and lighting up the cityscape.
You really know you're watching Soul Station when you are undead with only the most primitive of functions driving you, and you can't decide do you run or walk, run or walk, run or walk.
Or do you close the door or not?
Do you actually eat brains or do you not?
Do you push the dog to the lake or not?
Yes, you do.
Three adjectives to describe the film.
From my end, it's boring because I was like I said, almost fell asleep during my second viewing. It's cheap because of all my gripes with the animation, and it's so lacking because from this film I felt that there was some. It's hard to say why the social commentary of the film fails so miserably as it does, but I'm almost getting the feeling that it is because the director wasn't fully in. To
Yeah,
me, this smells like on goddamn afterthought. Something that you were really interested about making Train to Busan. That was the film you wanted to make. And after you made Train to Busan, or during the production, you got the idea, or someone gave you the idea that hey, did you know that today these multimedia franchises are all the rave. Let's just
Actually,
look what they do in the West. There is this thing called Dead Space. It's a game, but it's a comic. It's an animated films. It's a book series, and this is kind of the desperate attempt to do something like that.
well, actually, this was in production before Train to Busan, so this was done somewhere in 2014, 2015, and it was also pushed out in the film festival, if I understand, a few months before Train to Busan. I couldn't find information why it happened like this. That he's doing an anime and pushing it out, and then he's doing this live action version right away. Did it maybe happen like this that he suddenly got the deal that okay, we greenlight you the Train to Busan as well, and then he was kind of in the midst of two projects, and maybe Soul Station suffered as a product.
Or maybe this has been some kind of a I don't know, a hype machine type of thing. Like the director has been thinking about going to be trained to Busan to production houses and to have some kind of a prototype of what that film could be. He also started to show sketches and some animated scenes from Seoul Station, and at some point just ended up finishing the film.
Who
It's hard to say. I don't know what in God's name happened in during the production of Soul Station, but I do know that the film should have been pushed on the back of the shelf and never brought up.
And once again, I can't understate it in any way. I should overstate it in every possible way, I guess. I should state it that this film has, if you compare it to the first feature films, The Fake and The King of Pigs, these are some films that clearly have something to say. But this film clearly nothing really. So it kind of boggles the mind, and when you think about how much this Train to Busan made compared to his first two films, it's quite staggering to think about. Because the first two features amounted to just 5% of Train to Busan's opening day gross.
Yeah, Train to Busan was kind of a self-printing money-making machine of South Korean film industry when it came out. During this course of 3 episodes, when we are looking at the whole goddamn up to this point, Busan zombie trilogy, it's kind of interesting to see. Does the bankroll of Train to Busan somehow show up in for
Yeah,
better or worse?
here we go again with franchises. Oops.
Yeah, we just can't fucking escape them.
Yeah, it started with an idea that we do Train to Busan and Peninsula, but we were oblivious of this little gem, Soul Station. So rightfully so, Henrik wanted it to be included here. So I'm pushing it to you. You were the one who suggested it.
I did. I insisted that we also cover Seoul Station if we are going to cover Train to Busan. In my defense, once again, I hadn't seen this film previously, so I didn't know exactly how bad it's gonna be. But I'm still holding out hope, not having seen Peninsula yet, that once we get to Peninsula we can actually see some kind of a how this all works as a franchise type of thing. Hopefully.
If we ever get to Peninsula, it still remains to be seen if it's still gonna be in Finnish theaters when we get there.
But this was, I must admit, Soul Station, even though it most definitely did not work as a movie, it was an interesting to see as a case study or as an example of zombie horror anime, and kind of seeing that it didn't work like at all. And there might be actually something to ponder upon and think back to why exactly zombie horror anime did not work.
Hmm.
Does Soul Station its miserable failure mean that when it comes to horror, or at least to zombie horror, anime is kind of a territory that you just shouldn't take?
Yeah, I don't feel that I'm as much involved with the characters when they are anime here, but still, I think they did a pretty good job with that, and also with the way that the zombies look. I did like that one.
Okay, because I once again I have to disagree
Okay.
on both accounts. I also thought that most of the zombies pretty bad. Like you have a dude who has a red stain. Woo!
Hollywood Reporter said, simple, thrilling ride through a fiend infested world.
I I agree with simple.
This next one is Google translated from a Korean review, so it might be a little off, but I got this one. Quote, rather than Busan, the message goes up and the fun goes down. I think both go down.
I would say too. What I remember from Train to Busan, it's some time that I've seen that film. I do have a recollection that Busan actually has a stronger, more cohesive, and more interesting societal statement.
That'll be up next. This review, by the way, was from Namwoong Heo from Cine21, if I got that name correct at all. Did you have any favorite quote?
No, no, actually, I didn't. So just in order to fill out the template, I forced myself to pick "Dirty monsters, I kill you all," uttered by the cop in the jail cell. It's not really a good quote. I didn't think that the film was quotable at all, but you know, have to pick something. That is the one line that stand out for me.
Well, there is this one police commander in chief that gets half attacked by the pimp, but he reacts rather calmly to the situation and diffuses it and says, quote, the whole situation is rather unusual. Yeah, true.
Yeah, understatement of the decade. This is slightly not normal for us.
Alright, would it be time to throw Jeppe to the lake?
Most definitely, go for it.
Okay, let's see how this works. There he goes. Went fine.
Bye bye, Jeppe. I'm sorry that your last film that you ever heard us to cover was Soul Station. When it comes to your absolutely dramatic drowning, you can blame this movie for that.
Just to clear up with animal activists, Jeppe is still fine and reached the shore.
Oh my God, you're as much of a horrible death cock tease as Soul Station.
Alright, some more teasing next up next week. It's gonna be Train to Busan. Thanks for visiting our little tiny production. As usual, we exist in several places, connected via the cables of the world: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and theflicklab.com. Leave us a rating if you feel, would be greatly appreciated to lift up our ranks, and not only being the case that whenever I get the weekly updates, after recommending someone, for example the United Arab Emirates, that hey, maybe you should listen to the show, then I see in the top podcasts of iTunes the United Arab Emirates. Which wouldn't be so bad if I only knew how little listeners we have.
Well, who knows? Maybe if you play your guards right here, you can they become the next oil sheik.
Yeah, like that guy from Kalajärvi or where that guy was from, the Finnish oil sheik.
I haven't heard this story, and
Well, this guy became famous because of the TV show Karpula on Asia, who is a Finnish guy. If you don't know, if you're not Finnish, you don't know who this guy is. But he is the guy who goes to interview people and get nice scoops around the country, or did. There's going to be actually a documentary film about him later on, but and his career. But this was a oil sheik who thought that he was a proper oil sheik. He did some oil refinement processing of oils, and nobody was basically buying his oil. He had some ridiculous prices on them. He finally went fully cuckoo, and he purchased some kind of a suit to look like a proper oil sheik.
oh my god!
And and the story goes that his oil would have, of course, fixed you of cancer and diabetes or all kinds of ailments. And at that point, of course, it was a court case, but it was deemed, which is, I guess, not anymore so much funny, but it was deemed that he is syyntakeeton. So,
Okay, so he made the case that he's mentally disabled.
yeah, mentally something, and was found some years ago around his block dead. The story doesn't tell what happened to his wife. Would be nice to know. But se oli semmonen suomalainen kylähullu.
Yeah, stay Finland.
To these thoughts and images. See you next week.
Until then.
Mikä on mela englanniksi?
Riippuu missä kontekstissa.